In 1971, 61% of American adults were middle class. Today, that number is 50%, which means in the last 50 years, roughly 1 in 5 people who called themselves middle class quietly stopped being middle class. They didn't announce it. There was no moment where they crossed a line and a sign appeared that said, "You are no longer in the middle." It happened slowly, then all at once. And the question most people in 2026 are afraid to ask out loud is this: which direction did they go? Because here is what the headline doesn't tell you. When the middle class shrinks, it doesn't just disappear, it splits. Some people fall down, some people move up. And the difference between those two groups has almost nothing to do with income. My name is Harvey, and today we are going to walk through the 5 levels of where you actually stand financially right now in 2026. Not where you feel like you stand, not where your salary suggests you stand, where you actually stand. Because most people are one level away from where they think they are, and that one level is the most expensive mistake they will ever not notice they are making. Let me tell you about 2 people. The first person is 34 years old. They earn $78,000 a year. They have a decent apartment, a reliable car, a job they don't hate. They go on 1 vacation a year. They have a gym membership they use 3 times a week. They feel fine, comfortable, stable. They would call themselves middle class without hesitating. The second person is also 34. They earn $81,000, $3,000 more. Same city, same cost of living, same kind of apartment, same kind of car. But the first person has $47,000 invested and growing, an emergency fund that covers 8 months, 2 income sources, a net worth that is climbing every single month regardless of what happens at their job. The second person has $2,200 in savings, no investments, 1 income source, a net worth that is entirely dependent on staying employed. Same income, same lifestyle, same label, completely different financial reality. Now, think about that. The middle class has always been defined by income, by what you earn, by the number on your payslip. But income is a flow, not a foundation. It is water moving through a pipe. What matters, what has always mattered, is how much of that water you are storing, how much of it is building something that stays. In 2026, the middle class is not just shrinking because people are earning less. It is shrinking because the gap between earning middle class money and having middle class security has never been wider. You can earn $90,000 a year and be financially fragile, and you can earn $52,000 a year and be genuinely, structurally secure. The 5 levels I'm about to show you are not about income, they are about structure, about what your money is actually doing, about which direction you are quietly moving, whether you know it or not. Level 1, the survival loop. This is where every dollar that comes in immediately leaves. Not on luxury, not on waste, just on existing. Rent, food, transport, subscriptions, debt minimums, phone bill. The money arrives and the money departs, and at the end of the month, the number is roughly what it was at the beginning. The defining feature of level 1 is not poverty. Most people at level 1 are not broke in the dramatic sense. They have things, they have a life that looks functional from the outside. The defining feature of level 1 is 0 margin. Margin is the gap between what you earn and what you need to survive. When that gap is 0 or close to 0, every unexpected expense is a crisis. The car repair, the medical bill, the month where one thing goes wrong. At level 1, life is one expense away from unraveling. Now here's the part that most people don't understand about level 1. You can be here on $40,000 a year. You can also be here on $120,000 a year. The income is not the variable. The margin is the variable. The escape from level 1 requires only one thing, not a raise, not a windfall, a gap. You need to create a gap between income and expenses, even a small one, and protect that gap aggressively until it becomes a habit and then a system. Even $200 a month of margin invested consistently changes the trajectory, not immediately, but permanently. Most people at level 1 know they are at level 1. What they don't know is how close they are to leaving it. Level 2, the stability illusion. This is the most dangerous level because it feels like success. At level 2, you have some savings, maybe 3 months of expenses, maybe 5. You have no immediate financial crisis. You are paying your bills on time. You might even have started a retirement account. You feel stable, and stability feels like achievement when you remember what instability felt like. But here is what is actually happening at level 2. Your savings are not growing, they are sitting. Your retirement contributions are happening, but not being actively managed or understood. Your income has one source. Your net worth is growing slowly, too slowly to build genuine freedom in any reasonable timeline. The stability illusion is this: you have stopped the bleeding, but you have not started building. Think about that. Level 2 is where most of the people who used to be middle class are sitting right now. They are not failing, they are not struggling in any visible way, but they are not moving. And in 2026, in an economy where costs compound upward every year, not moving is the same as falling behind. The person who stays at level 2 for 10 years does not stay in the same place for 10 years. They fall one level because the world around them moved and they did not move with it. The exit from level 2 is not dramatic. It is one decision. Take the savings that are sitting still and put them somewhere that moves. A low-cost index fund, a brokerage account with automatic monthly contributions, something that uses time as a tool instead of letting time pass unused. Level 2 feels like safety. It is actually a slow drift.
Level 3, the building phase. This is where the math starts working for you instead of against you. At level 3, you have an emergency fund that actually covers emergencies, 6 to 9 months, liquid, untouched. You are investing consistently, not occasionally, not when you remember, but automatically, every month, before the money has a chance to be spent on something else. You understand the difference between an asset and an expense, and you are actively, deliberately accumulating more of one and less of the other. Here is what level 3 feels like from the inside. It feels boring. The investments go up and down. The contributions go in every month. Nothing dramatic happens. Nothing visible is changing week to week. And that boredom is the signal. That boredom is the machine working. The people who reach level 3 and stay there, who keep contributing through market corrections, through the months where it feels pointless, through the years where progress feels invisible, those people are building something that will eventually become impossible to ignore. Now, here is the level 3 trap that catches most people who make it this far: lifestyle inflation. As income grows, spending grows. The emergency fund stops being replenished because the expenses grew to meet the income. The investment contributions stay flat even as the salary increased. The gap between earning and needing, the margin that makes everything possible, quietly closes again. The rule at level 3 is simple. Every income increase gets split. Half goes to lifestyle, half goes to the machine. Every single time, without exception, because the machine runs on margin, and margin is the only thing standing between level 3 and level 4. Level 4, the optionality zone. Most people never reach level 4, not because it requires exceptional income, because it requires something rarer: consistency over a long enough period of time that the returns start returning returns. At level 4, your invested assets are generating meaningful returns, not life-changing returns, meaningful ones. Your portfolio is doing what you used to need a paycheck to do, putting money into your account without requiring your presence or your effort. But the real definition of level 4 is not a number, it is a feeling: options. At level 4, you can say no. You can say no to the job that is slowly destroying your health. You can say no to the opportunity that pays well but costs you something more important. You can take 3 months off for a family emergency without a financial crisis following the personal one. Think about what that actually means. Think about how many decisions in your life right now are being made not by what you want, but by what you need financially. The job you stay in too long, the relationship you don't leave because the finances are tangled, the risk you cannot afford for it not to work. Level 4 does not remove all financial pressure, but it removes financial desperation from your decisions, and that single change restructures your entire life. The people moving from level 3 to level 4 in 2026 share one characteristic. They treat their investment contributions as non-negotiable, not as something they do when there is money left over, as the first thing that happens when income arrives, before lifestyle, before everything. The paycheck comes in, the machine gets fed, everything else divides what remains. That single habit, maintained for long enough, is the bridge from level 3 to level 4, every time, without exception.
Level 5. The machine runs without you. Level 5 is not retirement. It is not a number in an account. It is a relationship with money that most people spend their entire lives working toward and never quite reaching because they kept moving the definition of enough. At level 5, your assets generate more income than your expenses require. Not theoretically, actually. Every month, money arrives that you did not work for directly, from investments that have been compounding for years, from income streams that were built deliberately and now run with minimal maintenance, from decisions made years ago that are paying returns today. The person at level 5 is not necessarily wealthy in the way the word is used at dinner parties. They may not have a second home, or a private flight, or a table at a restaurant with no prices on the menu. What they have is time. Actual time, the ability to spend Tuesday morning doing whatever matters most to them, not because they earned it that week, but because they built something that bought it permanently. Now, think about that. The path to level 5 is not a secret. It is not a strategy that requires access or advantage or a particular type of income. It is the same path for almost everyone who gets there. They earned more than they spent for a long time. They invested the difference consistently. They did not stop when the market went down. They did not stop when life got complicated. They did not stop when the returns felt too small to matter. They just did not stop. The boring, patient, unsexy discipline of not stopping, repeated for long enough, is how ordinary income becomes extraordinary freedom. So, where are you? Not where your income says you are, not where your lifestyle suggests you are. Where are you actually, in terms of margin, in terms of what is invested and growing, in terms of how many months you could survive if the paycheck stopped tomorrow? Most people who watch this video are at level 2, not because they made bad decisions, because nobody showed them the difference between feeling stable and being structurally secure, between the stability illusion and actual compounding, machine-building financial health. The middle class is shrinking because the gap between looking middle class and being financially secure has never been wider. You can have the apartment and the car and the annual vacation and the gym membership and be completely, structurally fragile underneath all of it. Or you can earn less than your neighbor, drive a less impressive car, take fewer trips, and be quietly, invisibly, unstoppably building something that will still be there when the email arrives on a Wednesday morning. The middle class is not disappearing because the economy is unfair. The economy has always been unfair. The middle class is disappearing because most people were never taught the difference between the 5 levels. They were handed a definition of success that measured the visible things, the income, the address, the car, and ignored the invisible ones. The invisible ones are the only ones that matter. You know the levels now. The question is which one you decide to move toward. If this video shifted something for you, drop in the comments which level you think you are actually at right now. Not the level you want to be, the level you are. Honest answers only. I'll see you in the next one.